All right, everyone, here we go. Finishing up the notes for Chapter 8, covering sections 9, 10, and 11 in the notes provided to you. And we'll start off this video talking about dayparts on a television station. Now, if you like visuals, there's a pretty good graphic in your textbook that may help you along with this part of the discussion. The grouping of hours into dayparts generally reflects the presumed lifestyles and viewing patterns of the average American viewing household. So the dayparts aren't just random times that they came up with. They're associated with certain people, certain demographics, certain expectations of content to be consumed during those different times of day. So those day parts are going to be programmed in such a way to reach the particular audiences, i.e. those that are at home and able to watch television, what they want, what they like. Broadcasters and advertisers must agree on these day parts in order to conduct the multi-billion-dollar business of setting advertising rates and selling commercial time. So it's also playing to the advertisers because they're looking for those same people and they want their advertising to air during those times that people are available to watch the television to see those ads. Now, let's go by time by time by time, day part by day part. 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., the early morning television viewing hours. Now, this is kind of broken up into two different slots here. Prior to 7 o'clock, many network affiliates will air local news during this time. People watching are generally employed, and they have the desirable advertising markers of income and education. They're going to work, they're making money. Well, you can spend money with us that we're showing the commercial to you as you are watching TV. Information is frequently repeated throughout the newscast using a format called a news wheel. So there may be certain news stations that will tout that they provide weather every 10 minutes or traffic 4 times an hour, or Channel 17 in particular at 6:45 a.m. does 15 minutes of nonstop news. They will use those things in ways to try to catch people's attention so that they have an idea of what to expect when they turn on the television to catch up on the news, the weather, the traffic, the sports, whatever else they are interested in, things coming up during the day, what have you. Now, once we get past 7 o'clock, this is the time frame where most of the major networks are going to be going to the network newscasts. Now, many CBS affiliates, at least in the past, have chosen to preempt its network programming due to poor ratings and to attract a good lead-out audience for its 9 a.m. show. But CBS This Morning has gathered a lot of attention in the past 4 years or so that it's been on, 4 or 5 years. And it's doing a lot better. A lot more affiliates are hopping on board with CBS This Morning. And, of course, that's competing against Good Morning America on ABC and The Today Show on NBC. Meanwhile, most Fox stations tend to focus on local newscasts during that time. That's true of the Fox stations in both Raleigh and in Greensboro. Smaller networks, they will counter-program with syndicated content or with infomercials, trying to minimize program costs in a low-priority day part for them. Now, moving on to the later morning hours, 9 a.m. to noon, you're going to see limited network programming. We are seeing more network stuff come out as we go along, as NBC has put out more hours of the Today Show, and ABC has The View, CBS focusing on game shows, but there's still a little bit of time within those schedules for local TV stations to air syndicated fare or perhaps even continue on with news in some markets. Affiliates complete the lineups, I should say, with a mixture of first-run programs, talk, and local news, with a programming strategy of trying to complement the demographic appeal of programs supplied by the network. So it's that idea of trying to maintain audience flow, that they will stick with your station from one show to the next. So whatever the network is bringing to the table, you're going to try to find programming that is going to appeal to the same demographic in hopes that they will continue to watch from one show to the next. If a new program in morning or afternoon daytime can weather the first couple of years of attracting a loyal audience, a kind of TV inertia takes over, and the program enters video Valhalla, remaining on the schedule seemingly permanently. This has definitely been true up until the 90s with soap operas that had been on major networks for such a long time. They have had lasting power for years and years and years and years. And there's still some staples that are enjoying loyal audiences for several years. The Price is Right has been on television forever. Even though it's newer in the landscape, The View came out strong and developed a huge following for its talk show. And The Talk from CBS trying to do the same thing. Afternoons from noon to 4, you have local news, most likely in the noon hour. And then after that, you have 4 different choices of programming content to choose from. You have soap operas, you have court shows, you have talk shows, and you have game shows. All available in syndication, except networks do offer soap operas, and in the case of CBS, the talk show as well. The afternoon is the most programmatically stable and consistent day part for viewers, networks, and advertisers, because people that sleep in, they're up now. They're kind of getting things done around the house, doing what they need to do, and they have the TV on as they're doing their things around the house. All right, the clock keeps going, and so do we. Early Fringe, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. It got its name from having been on the fringe of prime time. This was back when prime time started at 7 p.m., before the primetime access rule came into being. Many stations have extended their evening newscast before 6 p.m. 5 p.m. generally is the start time for local newscasts these days, although WRAL here in Raleigh starts its news block at 4 p.m. As the afternoon progresses and older children return home from school, followed by employed adults, the average age of the audience increases, and therefore so does the appeal of the programming that's available. This technique of matching program content to gradually aging demographics is called aging an audience. So this was especially true 30, 40 years ago, where on even the broadcast network stations, after the soap operas were over, kids come home from school, many of those affiliates started showing cartoons in the 4 and 5 p.m. hour. But even without that nowadays, as PBS and some of the independent and net-led stations have programming content, some of them will try to appeal to younger audiences in that mid to late afternoon time frame, and then gradually put on programming that appeals to older and older audiences as the late afternoon into the evening goes along. Early afternoon newscasts tend to be lighter on news, emphasizing feature stories. News becomes harder edged as the afternoon wears on and the working people come home. Stations that try to counter-program news content do so with comedy shows or younger skewing talk shows to try to reach to that particular demographic that's not focused on current events and what's happening. Then we get to prime access, that 7 p.m. hour. After the passing of PTAR, Primetime Access Rule, program producers created new programming for what was once part of primetime, things like game shows, entertainment news shows, and that sort of thing. Magazine shows are plentiful and have relatively stable purchase prices, plus they tend to not go out of style. Entertainment Tonight and Inside Edition have been around for a long, long time. And there's newer shows that are in that vein that are trying to catch on and have a limited amount of success in doing so. Then we get to prime time, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. during the week. The younger networks only program 2 hours of primetime programming a night. Fox stations in particular program news in their 10 o'clock hour to attract audiences that have to wake up earlier, and people just want to get a late cap of the news without having to tune in at 11 o'clock. Just kind of get the news, get it over with, go to bed, or move on with whatever else they have for that evening. Many My Network television and CW stations outsource their newscasts, as is the case with Channel 22 in Raleigh, the CW station. They actually have Channel 11 produce their 10 p.m. newscast. Some of the advantages for a station that decides to do that: number one, it counter programs the broadcasts networks that are still carrying programming at 10 p.m., many cable networks as well. It gives the station a 1 hour jump on the affiliate's local newscast. It gives access to broadcast-wary advertisers, so it creates an opportunity for advertisers that don't want to associate with certain types of content that may air in the later primetime hours to advertise on something a little safer. And it fulfills a station's public service requirements without them having to invest in their own news department. Late Fringe, 11 p.m. to 11:35, primetime serves as a strong lead-in for the local late news. Affiliates of the big three networks have stretched their newscasts over the past 20 years from 30 minutes to 35 minutes in Late Fringe, creating another commercial break. You always wondered why the newscast ended at 11:35 and Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel didn't come on until that time. Well, now you know. It's all about the money for the local stations. Other stations may counter-program with top-performing off-network sitcoms or rerunning popular talk shows. Late Fringe reaches an elusive audience that would be men, and especially young men. They tend to like to stay up in catching up on news and then sticking around for the late night shows from 11:35 to 2 a.m. The big three get good clearance of the late night talk shows where the popular three hosts tend to compete for each other, with each other, but against each other. Now, Nightline, it was an interesting case. It wasn't until 10, 15 years ago that ABC started running its own version of Late Night Talk with Jimmy Kimmel Live. And when they originally did, Nightline was the show that they were running after the local news for a long, long time at 11:30. And when Jimmy Kimmel first came on, they actually ran Jimmy Kimmel starting at 12 o'clock after Nightline. But they've since switched and they've traded spots. Nightline now runs at 12:35 after Jimmy Kimmel Live. For the other stations, late night is an ideal time to experiment with other syndication ideas. Play around with shows, see whether they would be popular or not for a more general audience, with audiences that are still kind of up and hanging around, and it's a low risk sort of way to be able to play with that. Then we get to the overnight hours. Repeated syndication or newscasts usually air at this time. It could also be a sanctuary for failed programs or old movies. Now, why would we actually care about the overnight hours? There was a time where stations would just sign off and go to sleep like the rest of us. But now they're 24 hours a day. Why do we care? Some viewer times and advertisers can still be found to buy commercial time. Viewers are up. They're wanting to be entertained. They're wanting to be informed. Might as well give them something to watch and give advertisers another chance to throw a couple bucks at the station's way. If a station signs off the air, a cable company could fill the void with content that might alienate the broadcaster's regular viewers. And if a station signs off, viewers that are awake will turn to another channel and then possibly leave it on that channel that they turned to when they turn off the TV and then turn it on later the next morning. So again, it's about that staying power, that audience flow, keeping it on your particular station and not having them migrate somewhere else. Weekend programming, networks readjust their programming to attract men primarily. They do this a lot with sports. Also, the station may counter program with content for women or teens that don't care about the sports. Now, as far as station promotion goes, the on-air promotion of programs, when you stop to think about it, it seems kind of weird that stations spend a lot of time promoting the shows that they have during their commercial breaks. Why not just let commercial advertisers eat up that time? Well, the station's own airtime is the most effective for being able to reach an audience, and it's also the most cost effective. The station's loyal viewers can easily be located in the market because they're already watching the channel. So if you're reaching to a particular demographic, you're promoting a show on that channel, more than likely the audience that's watching the show that you're currently airing will be interested in the show that you're airing later on. Stations will often reserve a position for a promo through every program. This is called a fixed spot. So it is a veil of commercial airtime that is dedicated solely for the purpose of promoting content on the station. A promo dedicated to 2 or more programs is called a combination spot. These are liked by stations for 2 reasons. First off, it's more efficient to promote as many programs as possible in one space, and they also increase the chances of program flow, because most times when they are promoting 2 shows, they're going to be shows that air back to back with each other. Cross promotion, the idea that similar programs should be promoted towards each other. Again, if you like this, tune in later on and catch this program. Priorities for on-air promotion, the potential profitability of the program. If they think it's a moneymaker to get people to watch so that the ratings go up, so that it can be a moneymaker for advertisers that want to associate themselves with that program to get all those viewer eyeballs. And the importance of the program to the station's overall branding strategy. If the program very well fits with the type of image the station is trying to portray in the community, that helps them with promotion and branding and those things as well, so that viewers would become more loyal to that station and its content. 2 general kinds of news promos include the topical promo, which is a promo about a specific story, and there's also the image promo, which creates a general impression of the news product's overall identity in the viewer's minds. So you could see a news promo that says, coming up tonight at 11, find out why water from the fountain will kill you, or whatever the story is for that evening. Or it could be an image sort of thing, touting the station's reputation that it wants to portray to you as far as its coverage of the news and the way that it's trying to make an impact for you. Promotion in other media happens as well outside of their own airtime. Radio and cable are becoming expensive for it to be effective for television promotion. It still happens, radio especially, but as it becomes more and more costly to do so, television is looking at other options. TV is a victim of its own attractiveness as an advertising vehicle. TV remains the most cost-effective buy for both reach and frequency. So what are other options? Well, websites. Station websites supply extended content for viewers who want more news and programming information, but only viewers that make the effort to go to the website are exposed to the promotion. You could say the same thing about various social media that a station is involved with. You can promote yourself on Facebook or Twitter, but people have to like your content in order to see it in their news feeds, or you have to pay for the advertising for it to intrude their news feed for them to be able to catch the things that you want to tout about your station. So what lies ahead for stations in the future? Well, in terms of digital technology, the biggest threat to over-the-air broadcasters is the technology that frees the viewer from the addiction of passive viewing. In other words, you have DVRs, tablets, smartphones, video on demand, where the consumer is more in control of what content they are looking to watch and can make that choice whenever they want to. They don't have to do the appointment viewing thing anymore, and they don't have to rely on the TV station to bring that to them. Competing newscasts. News will continue to be a mainstay of television programming into the indefinite future. Why? Because it's live, it's in the moment, and that's one thing that television still excels at very well. The main challenge being competition. Cable operators are running local news channels. Here in North Carolina, we have Spectrum's newscasts that run 24 hours a day on a local and regional level. You also have internet and mobile media that provides news to people in the palm of the hand and in an instant of a click. Channel migration. Could future FCC rules impact what happens with the quality of and therefore the quantity of subchannels, some of which are being leased out? Yeah, sometimes the .2s, the .3s, the .4s may not necessarily be being run by the same company that runs the primary .1 channel. Those things can be leased out for other operators to put content on. So there's that. And the more and more that we're moving to different standards, more streams of content being made available could be impactful in one way or another. And the mutation of broadcasting as a whole. Smaller stations are increasingly under pressure to sell out to the larger corporations. It's hard for a mom and pop to make it in the business these days. The number of local stations in a market may reduce because it is such a tough competitive market, not just from station to station, but with other media encroaching on television space. The business model of networks and affiliates is disintegrating, where there is more attractiveness to local content, syndicated content, and the networks don't have as much overall power as they once did. But that's also why networks are buying their own stations to have guaranteed coverage of their programming. And new media has made entertainment global. It's easy to pick up programs and shows from anywhere in the world now at the comfort of your computer, tablet, or smartphone. So there you go. There's Chapter 8. At this point, I shouldn't have to tell you what to do. It's on the screen. You've done it several times. So do it. Notes, study questions, turn them in. Check out the survey on Blackboard. And join us for the class on this chapter where we'll talk about all of these things and the things that are on your hearts and minds as we discuss the wonderful world of broadcast programming together.